Hello, lovelies. I'm back. This is Kimberly Purpose, and welcome to my channel. Hello, family. I have come across another article. The reason why I want to talk about the Neanderthals. The reason why I came across with this idea, I got this idea really from another YouTuber. I'm subscribed to her channel. It's on T Zion. I think her name is T Zion Today. She has a really good channel. She has really great, interesting topics. I love her channel, but she sort of touched on new findings that they found on about the Neanderthals. And so I thought I'd do a little research, and I stumbled across this article. I think it's an older article. It is. It's an older article, but I found it interesting because I think I found in this article, but I also read in some other anthropology publications about how the Neanderthals and humans were not like buddies back in the day. The original humans came from Africa. And so they were melanated people, and they moved into, I believe, Europe or near the Caucasus Mountains where these Neanderthals are found. And a lot of times they probably even fought against each other, and they captured the women and mated with them. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere where most of the time there's any trace of DNA, of Neanderthal DNA within the human bloodline, is always from the male, from the paternal side. So that means it was the male Neanderthals that were impregnating the female humans. And this article sort of touches on that, and and so it goes into detail explaining what happened during that time in the ancient time, thousands of years ago. It says here, sex and the single Neanderthal interspecies breeding in the upper Paleolithics. So, this article sort of goes into details explaining how the humans and Neanderthal might have came across each other and actually mated and brought about mixed human and Neanderthals, interspecies, and how that came about, pretty much to create Caucasians, I guess, because I think it's been proven that Caucasians do have, are the ones that are related to the Neanderthals and have a certain percentage, even though it's a small amount, of Neanderthal DNA in them, and that's how they came about. But anyway, and some scientists believe they also have rhesus monkey, but I'm not sure how that's true or not. But I think I read an article about that. But definitely the Neanderthal and human. And yes, and I think the human that's 100% is the Africans, the melanated people from Africa. But anyway, let's read this article. This article was written by Tim Jones. He's in archaeology, physical anthropology, and it was published in 2009. And the name of this publication is Anthropology.net, Beyond Bones and Stones. And it says here, there has been many coverage of a recent announcement by the Savo Pabo of the Max Planck Institute, who opines that Neanderthals and autonomy modern humans have sexual encounters as they cohabited in Upper Paleolithic Eurasia from around 42,000 to BP to 24,500 BP. Soon that's before Christ. But anyway, it says the main article is over at the London's Time, from which this is an excerpt. And here's a picture of the Neanderthal. I think I'm pronouncing this person's name right. Pabo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it, but I'm going to call it Pabo. Pabo recently told a conference at the Cold Springs Harbor Laboratory near New York that he was now sure that the two species had sex, but a question remains about how productive it had been. What I'm really interested in is, did they have children back then? And did these children contribute to our variation today? He said. Let's draw down. It says, I am not sure that they had procreated, but it did give offsprings that contribute to us. We will be able to answer quite rigorously in the new Neanderthal genome sequence. Such an answer might ease the controversy over certain contradictory discoveries regarding Neanderthals. Some fossils seem to have both modern human and Neanderthal features, suggesting that the two species interbred. Yet DNA scans have shown that Neanderthal genes were very different from those of modern man. So that's what this is coming from a scientist. And they said they're trying to see how this, interbreeding actually happened, and how it created modern man, which is the Caucasians. It says Pabo is reported to be on the point of publishing of his analysis, a Neanderthal genome, and it seems clear that he has gleaned something from the data that has prompted this new assertion. Previous research has been interpreted as indicating that if two species did interbreed, it was at a very low level, apparently evidenced by almost complete lack of Neanderthal presence in our own genome today. That's true. It's not a high amount. People who do have Neanderthal DNA is not at 50% in human. It's like maybe 5%. And then the rest is human. So it's very small amounts, small traces of the Neanderthal DNA in modern day man. And it says here, the way Pabo is couching it, that he has found that seemingly like the evidence that humans have just expanded out of Africa contribute to the genomes of Neanderthal. In other words, modern human integration into Neanderthals. Of course, if the genes flow was from modern human to Neanderthal exclusively, then it would be an evolutionary dead end since the lineage went extinct. See, that's a mystery right there. Nobody knows how this happened. And it's still speculation. Let's see. It says, in any case, for several decades, some fossils-based paleoanthropologists have been claiming that there are intermediate individuals in the records that indicate that modern human Neanderthal hybridization, most prominent Eric Trinthicus. If Pabo's findings become more solid, then it seems time to update the probabilities on these sorts of claims based purely on morphology. Wow, see, they're finding more solutions to this. I know this article's a little old, so I'm pretty sure there's some updates that shows that that humans did meant some kind of way with the Indians, not the Indians, but the I am really sleeping. But anyway, not with the Indians, but they the Neanderthals mixed with the humans that came out of Africa. And they still trying to figure out, how did that happen? Did it happen naturally? And some people believe that, I have read some articles where some people believe that it was done in a lab. Some kind of way. But, back then they didn't have that kind of technology. But some people believe that it might have came from extraterrestrials. That's another far-fetched, I don't know how true that is, theory. Now, people have so many theories as to what happened, and it's still, very questionable what took place. But let's see what this article says. It says today, most researchers acknowledge that some sexual encounter could have occurred between Neanderthals and modern humans. The more interesting question is how common were the encounters, and did they leave their mark on modern gene pools? Undoubtedly, modern humans and Neanderthals will have recognized each other as fellow humans, but this does not mean that they will have acted humanely to each other. So the question is, did these two groups of people, well, did these two different species get along? Did Were they enemies? Did they fight each other? You know, how often did they come across each other? Those are the questions that should be asked. Let's see what it says here. It says countless social and psychological studies have shown humans to have a very strong us versus them mentality that no doubt also exists in our ancestors. It is unlikely that modern human and Neanderthals had an easy relationship. Most sexual encounters took place between the two, which were more likely opportunistic and probably involved enslavement and rape. Wow, see? They said they think it's involved with enslavement and rape. And I can see that. You know, if they were enemies, that's usually what happens with prisoners of war, you know. Let's see what else it says. It says, of course, we have obviously no evidence regarding the circumstances under which liaison have taken place, and imagine that the last sentence of the quote is obliquely referring to the way in which indigenous Indian populations of Americas were almost wiped out from the face of this earth by the tides of great Caucasians who staged one of the most brutal and violent land grab in recorded history as they claimed other people's territories for their own, killing thousands in the process. Pretty much, that's why this is exactly what happened in America. And I find it interesting that they compare the Neanderthals and how humans and Neanderthals didn't get along, and how they probably was at war each other. And when they raped the women, that's probably how modern day man came about, which is the Caucasians. And then the Caucasians came over here into the Americas and took over the Americas. Now, this is a misnomer. They keep on saying all of the natives. Let's see here. What did they say? Indigenous Indians, they didn't kill all the indigenous Indians because we are still here. The Aborigine American Aborigines, which are the African, aka African Americans, we are still here. All they did was kill off some of us and threw us into slavery. And they also threw a lot of the natives in there, the Mongoloids, into the slave trade as well, which is oftentimes overlooked. They changed a lot of things through paper genocide to cover up the real truth. So, yeah, but I just wanted to add that to what they were saying to make it a little bit more accurate. You know, yeah, they killed off a lot of the Indians, but there are still some that are here. And a lot of them they did throw into slavery. At least they mentioned that up here, enslavement and rape. And that's all they did here. Is they didn't kill off all the Indians. What they did was they killed a lot of the Indians, but they enslaved them as well, which is us, which are the American Aborigines. But let's continue. It says here, however, Upper Paleolithic Europe was a very different place in America to the Americas. Of a few centuries ago, no centralized government, mobilized army, or even slavery as suggested above. I'm not even sure what the duties of deputation slaves in the UP will actually be, or how much of a state of affairs will even be enforced. The sheer numbers of humans involved in the theft of native people land for eclipse of the population of Ice Age Europe Although these might have been completion of the lands and resources, it would have been on a far smaller scale than modern day times. So I found it interesting. They do a comparison analysis to what happened in Europe with the Neanderthals and humans and modern day humans, which are the melanated people from Africa, and to what happened in Americas when they killed a lot of the Indians and also enslaved them, and really the Aborigines are still humans and related to the people of Africa, who have the 100% human DNA. And it's finding interesting that the great Caucasoids that came over from Europe, they are the ones that's mixed with these hybrids. They are the hybrids and mixed species of the Neanderthal humans, and some people say the rhesus monkey as well, but mostly the Neanderthal and human. And they came mixed in together, and that's how they come up with great Caucasians, the Europeans of today. But yeah, they say that the Neanderthals were very barbaric and warlike and uncivilized, and the way they killed off the Indians and enslaved them is exactly how the Neanderthals act in the Caucasus Mountains. So it's no wonder, no surprise that they're actually related to these beasts. And yeah, it's just, this pretty much tells you in this paragraph what took place and how come it's so embedded in them to seek and destroy, if they mix with these groups of people, and it's ingrained in their DNA to be like that. But anyway, more technology and cultural gaps between Neanderthals and incoming moderns was comparatively narrow, or opened by Professor Chris Stringer of the Natural History Museum in London. Let's scroll down. This is a long article. It's possible that Neanderthals and humans are genetically incompatible, so they will have interbred, but their children would have been less fertile, said Stringer. This phenomenon is seen in many other species, such as lions breeding with tigers, horses breeding with zebras. I used to believe Neanderthals were primitive, said Stringer, but in the last 10,000, 15,000 years before they died out, about 30,000 years ago, Neanderthals were given their dead complex burials and making tools, jewelry such as pierced beads like modern humans. Yeah, right. I think they're probably doing this because they know that great Caucasians are related to them, so they're going to have to spruce them up in some kind of way to make them feel better about being mixed species, even though it's at a small amount. It says the popular notion of interspecies sets as apparent as the previous quote post. The brutish Neanderthal men and their wicked ways was atomically modern women by drag them. Oh gosh, this is what happened. They say the popular notion of interspecies procreation has apparently the previous quoted that was brutish Neanderthal men and their wicked ways were anatomically modern women, which are the melanated women of Africa. By dragging them behind the nearest bush, reinforcing the old stereotype of rapacious cavemen that was so blight the way in which our archaic ancestors have been viewed for now on 150 years. Wow. And it's like I said, it's inbred into their core. And this is how they treated the Aboriginal women, the Indians here in the Americas. It was a lot of rape and assaults. They were prisoners of war. The people who were slaves here, enslaved in the Americas, they were prisoners of war. And since they were prisoners of war, they captured the women and children. And then what they did was they constantly raped the women and children. And that's how come we have the mixed races here in the Americas. That's why a lot of people are mixed, because of these assaults. And I guess this is how the great Caucasoids came into existence. And I guess the genetics from these groups of people, these species, is ingrained in their DNA, and that's why they continue to do what they do till this very day. But here, let's continue. It says, because the population of Europe is the upper Paleolithic was probably very low in both modern and archaic communities, contacts are likely to have been infrequent. Indeed, such quite possible that the members of both species lived entire lifetimes without encountering one another. As Neanderthal numbers began to decline, another encounter would have become increasingly rare. And when modern and Neanderthals did make primarily contact, it has been under many number of circumstances, some of which have resulted in violence and death, with others maybe in death with cooperation, friendships to including romance and kisses. Doubt that, but anyway. Yeah, other encounters may have ended up in polite, nice to meet you handshakes after the two species quietly got on with minding their own business without harboring any particular feelings for or against new acquaintances. That would be interesting to know. But anyway, let's continue. They just do all of these are just speculations. They looking at things from different scenarios of what actually took place between these two species, modern day man and the Neanderthal. Since nobody who lived during that time and knew exactly what happened, all of these is pretty much speculations or guess of how it probably would have been back in that day and time. But it says, as a brief aside, I can't help but speculate that it might have been easier for Neanderthal women to give birth to interspecies than their AMH counterpart. Yeah, right. Bearing in mind that Neanderthal babies were more robust, the size and the shape and size of their skulls. Even those hybridized would have made it more difficult for HMH mothers to give birth. The Neanderthal, for modern mothers to give birth, Neanderthal women would have conceived a child father of an HMH man would found it easier to give birth to hybrids and possibly smaller babies she carried. So the expected found that hybrids, children conceived by Neanderthal women survived in greater numbers than the ones conceived by the modern day humans. And others would have considered the evolutionary factors that led to relationships between the two species that caused ancient and modern day men to bond and breed with Neanderthal women. Such a question may be answered in part of further quote. Yeah, I don't believe that happened. I don't know. They think that Neanderthal women were having these mixed babies, these mixed species babies. But I think that's sort of false because what they did the DNA study. I read another article a while that's more current that's actually done DNA study. It showed that the paternal there was more paternal lineage of the Neanderthal in modern day man than there was the maternal side of Neanderthal women. That I think that has already been proven. It was more the men doing the procreating with modern day women than the other way around. Anyway, the recent announcement by Savant Pabo that he is sure that the Neanderthal modern human has said in quite a bold pronouncement coming from a scientist. It has raised questions that whether assertion is based on some kind of evidence that's found while sequencing the Neanderthal genome. It's possible that there are some Neanderthal genes passed on from modern to Europeans. They will have gotten eliminated from sequence gene pools as the population fluctuates during more severe climatic episodes. A more likely scenario is that Pavo's team found evidence of modern integration of the Neanderthal genome. In all likelihood, the incoming modern humans were more numerous than Neanderthals, therefore absorbing the endemic population through genetic swamping. So it was more of them. So what they did was there was so many of the modern day men that came into the Europe, and to the point where their gene pool sort of just was overtaken because they didn't have as many Neanderthals as modern day humans. So it's just that they it was so many of them, they reproduced with a few of them that to the point they didn't exist no more and they went extinct. That's what it's suggesting, that, according to the scientists. But let's continue. It says this will be seen to reinforce the point that any enforce says is more likely to have been instigated by incoming men on the female Neanderthal population. That's what they suggest. But anyway. But the DNA, I don't think. I gotta read that, find enough. I'm about to research this a little bit further because I could have sworn I read another article where they found more of the Neanderthal DNA found in modern day man, more so than the Neanderthal female. It was more of the males. And I'm pretty sure I read that in a science article. But this is an older article. I think the other article I read was more current. But anyway, it says we are to take modern history of human conquest and genocide into account and apply the same mindset to life 30,000 to 40,000 years ago. By the fact that both modern and archaic populations have coexisted in Europe 10,000 to 15,000 years, at least hint there is no large scale of organized species cleansing under by the modern day man, let's just say that. And it's, modern human. And it's quite possible that both they or the Neanderthals behave a great deal better towards each other than has often been the case in our own recorded histories. So they're saying there's a possibility that the Neanderthals and modern day humans got along better than what they are now, I guess, with great Caucasians and modern day, bronze colored people around the world who are descendants of the Africans, which history is showing that colonization has been very cruel and brutal globally among the true humans of this planet, which are the melanated people. But let's continue. It said it remains to be seen whether the latest research is able to resolve this question of interbreeding, or whether instead tentative clues were emerged that raise more questions than answers. And that's true. But I'm pretty sure I read a research that most of the DNA came from the paternal side. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to research that some more, but I'm pretty sure I came across an article that said that that's a little bit more current. And which sort of lines up with what happened in slave days in the Americas. The Great Caucasoids raping the indigenous women here who are, 100% human, and the Great Caucasians who are mixed with the Neanderthals, they're the ones that were doing the rapes, and it's sort of in their gene pool to do that. And it just, sort of like the image of the caveman that they mentioned at the beginning of the article that have his club and hit the woman on the head and drag her off and do whatever and mate with her. But anyway, they had a couple of comments down here, which were quite interesting comments. And oh no, I didn't mean to go to the other page. Let me go back. Sorry, y'all. I thought it would show me. I clicked on the wrong page, but yeah, I was trying to get to here. This person down here said, I see how the word enslavement would be interpreted as meaning slavery in a colonial sense. That is not how I intended the word. However, I meant enslavement of the following sense: cause someone to lose their freedom or choice of action. I do not wish to suggest that late Palaeolithic people kept slaves in a systematic organized way. I simply speculate that males may have opportunistic taking women against their wills in order to have sex with them and then remove the female freedom of sexual choice. So this is just what somebody else is speculating, but then I find it interesting. They compare what took place with modern humans, and the thousands and thousands of years ago, and with the Neanderthals, and comparing it to what is happening in the Americas with the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. They trying to do a comparison to see if there's a correlation between the two. Yeah, I would like to see what you all think about this article. It's an interesting article. I know it's an older article, and I'm pretty sure research has found more things and that's more advanced about the interspecies mating between the two, Neanderthal and modern day human. I would like to see what you all think about that. Please like this video and thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm also on Black Junction TV, and I also have a Facebook and also Facebook page. Please like it, and also I have a community as well. You're free to join. And I also have a GoFundMe, Patreon, and a PayPal. And till next time, peace, family, and be blessed. Bye bye.